now. My battery's good. I'm so winter. Can't remember my song. See that video? That Inspired and Unemployed video, the new one? That's it. So good, man.
Howdy.
Alright, let's do it. Coffee and Coach. Right, we're live on here. This is Instagram, and then we're going live on Facebook down here. But on the Facebook, we're not really going to be making eye contact. So if my eyes are everywhere, it's because I'm looking at two.
not a very flattering angle on Facebook. So Instagram people get like the best of us.
Hey, Dad, see you in half an hour. Be mean. All right, let's do this. So first, just going to touch on last week's podcast. If you haven't listened yet, I advise you to go. Am I looking at this? Or am I looking? Where do I do with my hands? The podcast was on balance. Okay, something that we all majorly struggle with. I think the stereotype of health, we blew out the water a little bit, and what should be expected if you want to be a fit and healthy human. So if you haven't listened to the podcast on balance, I massively advise you to.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest pieces of feedback that I've got from the podcast is that Darius should be on the podcast more because he fucking smashed it. He was really, really good. But I think we spoke a lot about aligning your values with how you live your life, and I think a lot of people say they have certain values, but when they actually looked at their life, they were prioritizing the things that they didn't enjoy as much, which took away from the things that they did enjoy. So for us, the main sort of messaging was, revisit where you're at with everything. Just what do you actually value as a time with your family, friends, your work, your health, and then see if your habits, how your days align with those values most. And side note, Aiden, hurry up and come back to training. Aiden Leeming, Cadenda East.
All right, so a couple of posts that we touched on this week. One of them was, there's a little bit of a craze. I'm not sure if it's that big in Australia at the moment, but in the UK it's massive, this anti-diet movement, which is going off, and it's pretty much just saying to people that people shouldn't diet, they shouldn't need to diet, which I kind of completely agree with. If people don't want to diet and people are happy with where their position is and they are happy and they are fulfilled, then no one should have the right to tell you what to do with your body. No one, ever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you agree with it or disagree with it. It's your body. You get to choose what you need to do. But there's this craze sweeping from this, especially with young females, where they're becoming quite emotional and lost because they feel like they shouldn't be dieting. I sat down with a member about 2 weeks ago that went through this exact thing. Okay, she's all for female empowerment, as are we, and she wanted to improve her position where she is. She wanted to improve her body composition, but she felt like she was going against what she stood for, which is just wrong. If people want to improve, then they should be able to. There's a very big difference between, not a big difference, but you can still have self-acceptance and still want improvement here. So I think whatever anyone chooses to do, they should have the right to choose to. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Like if you're happy with where you're at, fantastic. You should never feel pressure into doing something you don't want to do. But if you do want to make some improvements, like whether that be from a diet standpoint or training standpoint, more power to you.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm not pro-diet or pro-anti-diet, but I'm just pro-choice. Whatever the person chooses to do, is the right decision. Sleep. You touched on sleep yesterday.
Yeah, I think. As I mentioned in my post yesterday, it's one of those things that, everyone knows sleep's important, but it's the first thing that we put aside when we get busy or want to do other things. Like, we are the only species on Earth that will sacrifice sleep to just do other things. Yeah, I will not anymore.
I did for many years, though.
Yeah, and it's, I think one of the most powerful things I've heard in regards to sleep is, in regards to the different lifestyle factors, we think we need to have a well-balanced approach, which we do, but we think we need to put equal effort into like training, nutrition, managing stress, and sleep. And they're sort of 4 individual pillars, whereas sleep should be the foundation on which those other three things sit. Because when sleep is good, everything else is easier. The negative effects that come from poor sleep around your training and nutrition are massive. So if you haven't looked into training or into improving your sleep as much, it's something that just needs to happen. It will make you a better human overall.
You'll never get the best out of your life, you could say that, especially your training and nutrition and health and happiness, if you are not sleeping adequately. And you should be looking for 7 to 9 hours. Those people that believe that they can just sleep for 4 hours, They
No,
can't.
that's the biggest thing. If anyone says that they can get by on 4 to 5 hours sleep, they are full of shit and they've just adapted to feeling like rubbish. That's it. The body is like incredibly adaptable, and they have just adapted to feeling like shit.
Because even when you're a kid, you're supposed to sleep like 12 hours, and as you get a little bit older, down, and we're supposed to sleep about 7 and 9. But even if you're an athlete, like athletes, the research at the moment is like 12 hours a day should be around sleep. You know, for athletes, because they're just putting so much effort into what they're doing. So sleep. But Sean's going to do a few more posts on sleep, which we'll post on Rebuild too. But start focusing on your sleep. It's very important. I did a post yesterday about meal frequency, 3v6. It's still a very common. To be honest, myths keep coming round.
Yeah.
You know, so the myth of eating smaller meals more often will increase metabolism and therefore will increase weight loss over time, which again is totally false. There is no research or evidence to suggest this is true from anywhere. And I think the myth has come from bodybuilding.
Yeah.
So if we speak about protein last week, the myth has come from protein in terms of muscle protein synthesis. So if you eat 0.3 to 0.5 grams of protein per kilo of body weight every 3 hours, so if you can get 6 servings in per day, that is going to be optimal for muscle growth. Nothing to do with fat loss. Okay, if eating more often would keep you maybe a little bit fuller, so you can adhere to your diet a little bit better, then maybe. But if calories are matched, it doesn't matter if you eat 3, 6, 12, 9, it doesn't matter whatsoever. So whatever allows you the best lifestyle. Do you know, for the majority of my members or my clients, they will have breakfast, lunch, dinner and a protein shake. So they'll have 4 servings per day.
Yeah.
And that is to look after their body composition. Remember, we don't just want to lose weight, right? We want to look better. So if we can improve muscle mass while trying to lose fat at the same time, then that's going to be more beneficial. So meal frequency for muscle gain, yes. Meal frequency for fat loss, nada.
Well, it doesn't matter. What else you got?
Injuries?
Injuries, mindset, and adapting to that. So pretty common one. Like sometimes, no matter how well you're training, no matter how good things are, like sometimes we just pick up little niggles. And again, that can be a result of many different things, but sometimes you can do nothing wrong and still pick up niggles. And it's one of the things that we sometimes see within the gym. People get like a small little niggle, but then they just stop training altogether. They like disappear, and you know, we call them up and like, hey, where have you been? How's it going? It's like, oh yeah, you know, I've got I hurt my calf running. It's like, oh, what's wrong with the rest of your body? It's like, oh, I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want to come in. I think the biggest thing is people feel like bad enough when they get injured, but you feel even worse when you stop doing the things you enjoy. So if you do get injured, the worst thing you can do is completely stop your training. There is always something else you can do.
Even from a recovery standpoint.
Yeah.
You're going to get through your injury faster if you keep training.
Yeah, again, your body is incredibly adaptable. So yes, you can continue to train. You might have to change your training slightly, but I guarantee from a mental standpoint and from a recovery standpoint, it's always better to continue to do something.
Yeah, and when injuries do happen, like the mindset around them, you know, we can say this, like, keep training, and it's fine to feel like shit for a little bit. It's fine to have like your whinge and your moan and stuff because your body now can't do what it did last week. That is fine and acceptable, but at the same time, you do have to pull yourself together.
Yeah, take it from 2 people who know.
Yeah, that's it. Plenty of injuries between us, and then move on. Okay, because again, you don't even have to adapt the training as much as what people think.
No.
Like, it's very small changes will make the biggest difference within your training.
Yeah, just before we move on, like people think they need to change the whole workout because they can't do certain movements. But for most good places, it's about the stimulus of the workout, not necessarily the movements itself. So we can create the same stimulus with different movements. It doesn't matter. Like if you can't use a particular body part, we can still get the desired stimulus we want.
Yeah, 100%. I said that with the deadlift. I was in fear after rugby, hurting my back, in fear of deadlifting for years. This was ages ago, and I remember I worked with Lewis, and I just hip thrust for ages. But then I made my deadlift stronger.
Yeah.
Just hip thrusting. You know, it might have been time as well and other factors, but again, the stimulus. Side topic here before we finish up. If anyone understands Apple, let us know. We bought a brand new iPad maybe a year ago.
Oh, 2 years ago.
2 years ago. That has never been used because we put a 6 code. Why 6? Who uses 6 codes? We have no idea, and now we can't get into it, and we've never been able to. But now we want to get into it. So if anyone knows how to get into this Apple thing, then let us know. Or is it useless, or do we have to go to... I don't want to go to the Apple.
I
You
don't
don't
wanna
like
go
the
there.
Apple stop, do you?
No, I don't like Carindale.
No,
It's too
you-
many people.
Too many people. And then lastly, this week's podcast, we've got a pretty cool guest on. So we've got Dave Roby. Dave Roby is a fellow business owner, fellow gym owner. I'd say he's an entrepreneur. He was a man at one point that was pretty close to death, which I'm looking forward to jumping into that and finding his mindset around that. And now he does a lot of sort of charity work, and he's about to embark on a pretty cool task of running 7 marathons in 7 days over 7 states in Australia. And from what I do know, he doesn't like running.
No, he's a big lad. He's definitely not your traditional...
No, he's been...
doesn't have the traditional physique of a marathon runner. But yeah, it'll be interesting to hear Dave's perspective. It's always great to hear from people who have gone through pretty big life-changing events and come out on the other side doing some pretty epic things. So he'll be... Yeah, that's this Friday, and then next week... Oh no, we'll save that for next week.
Save it for next week.
Save it for next week.
Oh no, good.
I'm excited.
All right. All good. See you next week.